walking in the dark until you came and turned a light on. And I don't wanna take the rain without the clear skies. And I don't wanna take the pain without the love. I know you have to break a heart to start the healing. I know I'm nothing
Hey, what's up, everyone? Yeah, go steal it. Go steal it, Granny. So NetLoader is, at least now, and I guess also at the time of release, nothing special at all. I'm kind of underselling what I'm trying to show already, but it's basically patching some stuff and doing some stuff. Netbot is in the chat as well. Awesome. Hey man, so glad you can make it to stream. So we're going to be talking about NetLoader, and I think somebody, I think this was a suggestion from the Discord. So if you're not in the Flangvik Discord chat, consider joining. I'll drop an invite link. I'll actually be doing some voice, or I'll be hanging out in voice channel after the stream. So if you want to jump in, have a talk, and share some opinions or troll or whatever, feel free to join. That's the Discord link. And thought it would be nice maybe doing some more interaction voice afterwards, if you're down. If anybody's down, of course. I'm not going to be hanging out there all by myself, hopefully, so we'll see. Okay, NetLoader. I guess let's give some history first. So NetLoader is an older project of mine. Let me change screen here. Which is similar to a bunch of other projects. The one that I think the first one that comes to mind is Rastamouse's Tiki Torch. Well, that's actually a lie. Rastamouse's Tiki Torch does process injection. So it's not, you can't really compare it to that. I guess basically it's a cool example of how you can wrap and load C# binaries dynamically by patching AMSI and ETW to get around some basic AV solutions such as Windows Defender. And when this project NetLoader was initially released, I actually released it as an obfuscated source, and I deployed infrastructure on my side to continually monitor the signature detections for that obfuscated source code, and I would update the obfuscated source code with the detections, and I did that for a solid amount of time. I guess the commit history will show, but I think I did that June, May. I think I did that for 2 months, or is that a stretch? I think it's a bit of a stretch. Okay, let's say I only did it for a month. So on my end, it was pretty cool actually. On my end, I would have a VM running in the cloud that would constantly check the binary for new signature detections by using a modified version of the only tool that existed at the time, which was, I think, was Threat Check, the original one by Materpreter. I want to say Materpreter, but that's not the name. No, so Rastamouse's Threat Check. It's based on and POC by Defender Check. Sorry, Materpreter, whatever. Right. So I would use this. I would run it continually against the binary. And then I would have pushover notifications when a new signature was detected. And I would go in, I would perform my own sauced obfuscation, which back then was like an early shitty release of what became Rostfuscator, which is now publicly released. And then I would update the obfuscated source code. And people could use that if in my mind it was sort of a bit of a troll to sort of show how easy and how stupid, or generally how stupid signature detections can be, how ineffective they can be. But in the end, I stopped doing it, mainly because I got direct feedback that it was abused quite heavily, so I stopped doing that. I stopped providing the signatures, which I initially regret. I have no issue saying I regret doing that initially. I mean, it was cool. I guess it was one of those first things I got a little bit bit by, you know, people noticing and stuff. So, yeah, I have no problem admitting that that wasn't the greatest decision I've ever done. But I stopped providing signature updates, and then sort of it's just the obfuscated source code from the last release has sort of just been living in that GitHub repo for 12 months, 14 months. And I've always had my own version of it, which I called, you know, sort of a private release, which at the time used SharpSploit to dynamically invoke the API calls to patch AMSI and ETW. And obviously it was not obfuscated, it was clean. But this is all so long ago that it isn't anything like there's... I'm not saying it was super special back then, but it's definitely not super special now or anything that I don't... Basically, I don't use it anymore. I use some other stuff that our great research team at TrustedSec comes up with. So I don't really use it anymore, and therefore I thought, hey, why not release the clean source code so other companies and other researchers can take this and make it their own, and maybe even use it on an engagement or two, right? Basically trying to give a learning experience, I guess, right? So the way it works is that you have the C# source code, which takes a different set of input parameters, so you can give it a path. That can be either a URL or a local path to a binary file that you want to be invoked, and you can give it arguments, and it will basically load that file, whether locally or online, and it will patch AMSI ETW, run that file, run it with the arguments you give it, done. Simple C# wrapper, loader, call it whatever you want. It also had an extra feature for working... so let's say, basically this was my cheesy way of getting around having a bunch of different arguments. So there was a base64 toggle that would say that every input argument had to be base64 encoded before you could submit it. So, you know, giving the binary a large set of arguments wouldn't break the original execution. That was just my cheesy way of getting around it, parsing that stuff basically. And that's the gist of it. One of the cooler things that I also included with this is the MS build lol bin. Hey, thank you for the follow, Log Knight. Is the MS build lol bin. So basically, there's a specific class and function override that you can smack into an XML file. You can load that with MS build, and MS build will invoke that on runtime within its own process. So you can sort of piggyback on the MS build process, and it's a commonly known lol bin. So if you don't know what a lol bin is, or haven't heard of it, maybe haven't heard of it before, basically it's called lol BAS, stands for Living Off the Land Binaries and Scripts, or Living Off the Land Binaries is what it's commonly referred to. If I recall correctly, this is actually maintained by Odvar. Yeah, this is maintained by or actually. That's wrong, I'm lying. Either he's a major contributor, or he's actually maintaining the whole repo. I'm not sure. I know he's a contributor at least. And basically it's a collection of possible ways to abuse pre-existing and usually trusted binaries. Thank you for follow, Technobro2. So basically there's a full list of binaries that you can use and abuse to do different things. So maybe people don't know maybe that you can actually run you can call executables through Explorer using this. So that could be a nice way to maybe de-link an execution or whatever. And obviously there are multiple ones here that does different things. So you can use them for execution, you can use them for download, you can use them for app locker bypasses. So which is generically hey, what's up, Abdi? Which is currently or typically referred to as application whitelisting bypass, or on Windows app locker bypass. Basically, some Windows systems are locked down, so you can only use a set of trusted applications. So if I drop my initially binary file that I want to run, I can't run it because it's not a trusted binary. It's not in the list of trusted binaries in the policy. But many of these files will be because they're default with Windows. So you can use this and abuse the existing files to get around that app locker policy or application whitelisting policy. So it's all categorized, it's great, you can search for it, whatever. And if you go through and find MS build here, you will find that this is an application whitelisting bypass. Because when you run it against a specifically crafted XML file, that includes, let's see, is this an example? This is for a project, yeah. That includes the class example, I think it's example, override, or are these all, basically, if it includes, if that XML or CS project file includes the public class, which inherits from task and interface task, with the override of execute, when MS-Build tries to compile this project, the XML file or the C# project, it will actually run this code inside the MS-Build process using reflection. So you can, that's how you get around the application whitelisting bypass, or that's how you get around the application whitelisting policy. So if you're stuck on a system, if you're in like a kiosk escape, or generally just Zoom breach, you have interactive access, you have physical access to the computer, and you're having issues running stuff, say PowerShell is disabled, there's a strong application whitelisting policy, then you check, can you run MS-Build? MS-Build comes pre-installed with the .NET framework, you know, at least for Windows 10. I think actually from Windows 8.1 and up. So if MS-Build is there and you can run it, you can use this and you can bypass that policy. So I actually, in the NetLoader project, I supplied that XML file. So you can just download this. You can change this argument right here to so NetLoader will actually do what you're telling it to, and then you can run it straight off that file on the system that might be heavily restricted. Or you could just compile the source code, which is now also provided, deobfuscated, and you can use that. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's a rather crude example. There's nothing. Yeah, this is rather crude, but yeah, take for it whatever you want. Okay, so let me first. So what I wanted to do in this stream is to show how to use NetLoader, both the binary and the XML file or the CS project file with MS-Build. Show you how to use it, show it how it can be used for Sharp collection when you're working in lab environments or HTTox or whatever. And then I also wanted to see, at least try to go down the path of how much obfuscation would be needed to make this undetected signature rise on, say, a basic Windows Defender box. That's why I wanted to go through today. That's the path I want to go down. We'll see how far we go down the rabbit hole before everything just locks up. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at the binary first. So the way you would do this is that you would obviously just git clone the NetLoader project. You're just gonna smack that right into desktop here, git clone, and then the NetLoader project URL. Then you can go into the project, you can go into the source code folder. Let's just move there with the PowerShell terminal. And then to compile that source code, you simply run this, and you're done. Now, why didn't that work? Yes, type or namespace definition, ender file expected. Okay, so I guess when I push this out in my sleep, I fucked something up. Give me a second, probably a quick fix. I'm guessing it's just a missing. Yeah, it has one too much of these. I'll fix that. There we go. So that compiled, now we have random name.exe. So we just used MS-Build basically, or sorry, csc.exe, which is the compiler for that framework. We told it the target would be an executable, a binary. We gave it the output name we wanted, and we gave it the input source code. That generated random name.exe. Yeah, correct. So that it is for that's supposed to be. So for this, it's commented out, and then I would need to uncomment this when doing the XML one. I'll show you later, but it's supposed to be like that. So let's say I ran just clear this and ran random name now. It wouldn't do anything because we didn't give it any arguments. I think if I do -h, yeah, it will give us the arguments. So there are a couple of arguments here. The main ones are the paths and the args. So the path again would be either the local path or the remote URI, meaning the URL path to a binary .NET framework C# binary that you want to invoke. And then the arguments would be the arguments to give to that actual binary. So as an example, let's just move over to the Sharp collection project, which is, if you don't know about this, I think this is rather handy. And we actually hit 1K likes, stars on this as well, so that's great, that's cool. Basically, I take, I'm not going to say all, because obviously there's not all, but let's say 80%, 70% of the common public C# offensive tools out there, and I automate the compiling of them using Azure DevOps. So basically every night at 3 a.m. an Azure pipeline on my end fetches all the repos, checks for changes. If there's any changes, it's real compiled and pushed out to this. So this is a great way to just get the binaries. If you're on a Linux box mainly, if you're doing a lot of hack the box, VM labs, research, whatever, you can use these pre-compiled binaries instead of having to download them and compile them yourself. So if you didn't know about that, that's a great resource. So for this example, I'm just going to pick out seatbelts. So you just click it, and then you right click on download, copy the link, and then now you can use this link straight into the path here. So sorry, random path, sorry, one-path. You give it that URL. It will now download and invoke seatbelt. So you saw we got the help menu for seatbelt because we didn't give it any arguments, right? So let's say we want to give it an argument. Second. Oh, sorry. So let's say we want to check if app locker is involved. We do --args. So happy to hear that, Chronic, that you like that. So now we're enumerating app locker. Didn't found any app locker running. I think we can enumerate antivirus. Yeah, now we're enumerating antivirus. So that's how you invoke it in the basic form. As the help menu showed, you can also actually XOR. So there might be instances where you can't pull from an online resource and you want to load the binary from disk, but obviously the binary you want to load is most likely detected. So what you can do is that you can XOR encrypt that file and then just provide the key to NetLoader, and it will decrypt that once it loads it. Does the assembly stay in memory? Wondering if there's a way to execute various commands without having to call outside multiple times. No, so you could do that. You could add a simple for loop and make it like ask for more commands without having to run random name.exe multiple times. There's definitely a modification you can do. Again, you know, this isn't, I'm not going to say it's fully outdated, but you know, if you look at SharpC2 by Rustamouse, he now has a bunch of really cool techniques that you could implement into this. I think the first thing I would add would probably be loading the binaries in a disposable or in its own app domain to try to sort of evade some more detections. That could be a thing. So you can do XOR, and as I said, you can also do B64, so all the input arguments has to be base64 encoded. UTF-8, that is. Okay, so that's the binary. In most cases, if you were actually going to deploy this on the system with antivirus, you would have to obfuscate it. We're going to look into that later. Another option would be to use the lulbin. So if you go into the lulbin here, you see we have NetLoader.xml. If you open that in Notepad++, we can see that this is the class we want to edit. So this is what happens when this XML is loaded by MSBuild. MSBuild will trigger the execute function, which will load NetLoader by the main function and give it a path and an URL, just like we just did manually through PowerShell. So if we just do, I think we can just MSBuild. Really? Yes, we have to give it the full path. If I recall correctly, I show that here. So yeah, there we go. Here's the full path. So for 64-bit, it would be this. You would simply run that. And this would be running from inside MSBuild. So there's no new binary being loaded here. This is all ran from inside of MSBuild. And again, that's how we bypass application whitelisting using this. If MSBuild is installed in an allowed application, of course. So that's cool. That's pretty sneaky. Let's see how detected this is. So again, if you wanted to change the arguments here, you would do it in NetLoader.xml at line 29, where you basically just give it the arguments in an array like you would through PowerShell basically. So in this case, I gave it path, and I also gave it the full path to seatbelt to load. And that's what happens when I ran it. Okay, cool. Let's see how detected this is. So actually, I'm just gonna move away here while I fire up the second VM because I have other stuff running as well. Give me a Secerino here. I think it's call it Linux. No, it's which should we choose? We could just choose the lab one. Yeah, let's just choose the lab one. That should be a safe call. Just firing up another VM here in the background. Give it a second. How's everybody doing today? Everybody excited for a new week? Okay, so Vaden says that I'm pretty sure there's a way to pass environmental variables to MS build. I used them at one point in the OSET labs. It's handy if you don't want to recompile the time. Want shells? Yeah, sure. So, so what you could do is that in the MS build C# code, you could probably just look for different environmental variables, and you could use those to parse the arguments, and that would be sort of running a file without giving it actual arguments. You want shells? Trunsky? No, you're not that late. I just showcased the NetLoader project, and now we're going to try to see how much it would take to get it around basic signature detections. Yeah, let me just clean up this VM before I show anything here. Give it a second. Recent files looks good. Let's see if I need to change the network interface. Hey, no worries. Running shellcode is, I mean, at least for deploying C2s, might as well be just as easy. Yeah. Also, when you have donuts, you can just make any C# binary shellcode and just invoke it like that. It can't be poor if it works. That's a solid statement. Speaking the truth right here. Trunsky coming in and laying down the hammer. Speaking the truth. Wow, I can't speak. I just have to fix this DNS setup here. Does it have internet connection? I guess it technically, yeah, it has. Okay, let's share this VM. Let me show that the Fender is up and running. That looks decent. Start action, blah, blah, blah. Check for updates. Let's do that. And meanwhile, I'm just gonna try. Obviously, I know, or I'm pretty certain that the binary is just going to be caught straight up. So I'm thinking we're gonna have to run Rosfuscator to get this around. We could also try with Confuser X, but I think Rosfuscator might give us the best result here. So I'm just gonna copy over that random name to that VM. Custom enterprise block. No idea what that is. Let's just check that we don't have any exclusions. No exclusions, and real-time protection and cloud delivery is on. So if it will 100% get nuked. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, nuked. Great. Okay, so let's try to schmack this through Rosfuscator. So somebody actually asked me this in another stream, or I think it was on Twitter. How do you use Rosfuscator against pure source code like this, right? This is just a program.cs source code that needs a solution, or it needs an actual project solution to work. So what you do is that you just create a new project. So let's just go to Visual Studio. Let's just create a new project here. No, I don't want to clone. Create a new project. Then again, it's important that you select console application and you choose Net Framework. Don't do, oh fuck, really now? Oh, give me a second. I have to sign in. Why you gotta do me like this, huh? What account to choose? What account? If it works, it works. Oh, that's cool. So I actually recently found out that Adam Chester, colleague of mine, XPN, did a blog post about doing just that, like way back. I had no idea. If I have found that blog post earlier, it would be saved me so much time doing the Roster Skater project. Yeah, taking note. Roslyn can really fuck you up sometimes. In terms of, you know, okay, what account should I choose? So many accounts. I could just use like a yeah, I have to do some email confirmation and stuff. Give me a second here. No, yeah, Microsoft Security, your payment is past due. Sure, that's good to know. Let's hope this doesn't just blatantly show my account. Won't try to avoid that, so. Yeah, I should my screen again. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, let me share my screen again. Seems like I can do that now. Okay. So I just created a new project. I called it NetLoader in LeetSpeak. I'll take the source code. I'll smack that straight into here. We can remove the XML part because we don't need that. Seems like we can remove this as well. Smack it into release. It will compile. Now, we just have to get the roster skater project. So. Let's see how bad roster skater is. If I recall correctly, it's a pain in the ass. We'll see. Shitty example. So yeah, I said it earlier in the stream as well. I said it earlier in the stream, but I can say it now as well. So after the stream, I will be in the official Discord in the voice chat. So feel free to join the Discord and have a chat with me after the stream if anybody's feeling bored and down. So roster skater, just gonna open that. Technically, I should just be able to run it from debug, but yeah, let's just run it from debug. Need to compile it first, so compile from debug. Here we go. So we can just pull up this, and then we can close that. So now we do roster skater, and we give it a path to solution. So let's do this, and let's just do strings first and see what happens. So we just need to rename this to program for that to work. And then, isn't this there? It's because it's already there, yeah, okay. There we go. So the string obfuscation worked. I'm guessing this is not enough. I'm almost certain this is not enough to get it around the stuff. Let's see. So I compile it as release. Yep, 632. Let's see what happens if I drop this onto disk. I'm never really surprised anymore. Yeah, it turns out it's pretty easy to get this back up and running. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting it to work on the first try, so let's hope running it nukes it. I was kind of hoping to. I was certain that this wouldn't work on the first try. Yeah, I gave up at this point. I gave up on Defender. I've given up on Defender a long time ago. Yeah, so basically all you need if you want to run this project on... all you need if you want to run this NetLoader project on the Defender box is basically just obfuscate the strings using Rosfuscator. One line of execution and you're done. And yeah, so I didn't expect that to be that easy, to be honest with you. That's great though, cool. So let's see if we can, so let's say you do this and you get the obfuscated source code in here. Now you could just, so I removed this, but I've just copied this back in, smack that at the top here. Like that, oops, like that. And now it's called program, and then I would just give it some arguments. So let's give it the same arguments. Oh, that's something else. Let's just give it some arguments. So that would be dash path. Would be worth combining the original NetLoader with thread check, defender check, see if the obfuscation string is confused and so on. So when I maintained the signatures of NetLoader back like a year ago, I had a lot of issues with not necessarily the string obfuscation, but like the execution flow of it. But maybe they have issues with that since we're using SharpSploit now. Maybe they're having issues tracking that. Another thing is that, you know, I also have a feeling that maybe having a URL in here into seatbelt might give a detection. So we'll see. So I'm just going to smack that in there, copy this out, and then smack that into the XML file. If I can ever find that, so that's NetLoader, Lulbin, open the XML file. Oh, don't want to share it, open the XML file. And then basically you replace everything from the under C data to, yeah, the next like brackets, everything in here. You smack that, the obfuscated source code in, and you should be good. And then again, yeah, we have our arguments here. Let's just check that it works out of the box here. Let's move into NetLoader, Lulbin. So it didn't work. Valid token, class program. Does it have to be a public class? What is this? Why is this there? No, that's the string. It probably has to be a public class, or it can't reference it. An error occurred. Unexpected character. 1056. Let's just move this back. Check that the original works and then try again. So public class, Obfuscator. What do you mean does not contain the definition for main? Oh my god, did I just copy this into Obfuscator? Dude, I am drunk. I just copied this. Oh my god. Yeah, sorry guys. I don't know why I even stream at this point. I didn't even copy it into the correct project. I copied it into Obfuscator. No wonder it couldn't compile fucking Obfuscator. Makes complete sense. So sorry. Let me try this again. That makes sense. There we go. That worked better. Sorry. Oopsie on my end. Okay, so now we have the obfuscated C# source code into the XML file. We have the trigger. We confirm that it works. Let's create. Let's just rename this to not a loader, like that. And I think so. I don't know, but Defender might have a generic detection for the MS build stuff. I do not want to send these to review. Fuck no. I'm kidding. Defender does not have generic detections for MS build files. I expected too much. Let's copy this and yeah, let's run that as well. Looks just fine. Okay, cool. I didn't really expect that to go this well, but it did. I was expecting like 50 minutes of struggles, but basically I guess that shows how easy you can get around basic signature detections using Obfuscator and something like NetLoader. So, you know, yeah, cool. Yeah, and that's at least some basic deployment of it, you know. Not really sure what much else to like talk about here, since this worked so well. I can fix that source code thing in NetLoader. I'll fix that straight up. So source, let's just edit this because it had like one too many. Let me 2FA people, 2FA. Very importante, always use it. So I had a really funny story today, or last week. So I was on this client engagement last week. I had a really funny engagement last week where it was a 1 week internal penetration test. And the stuff was pretty well locked down. There was that's I guess that's a lie, but domain controllers had missing LDAP signing, so could have done relaying if I could get anybody to authenticate to me over HTTP. No, I was placed in a data center, so very little network traffic. I was unable to successfully poison anything to generate network traffic to me. Same with MNTM6. There was also a bunch of workstations, I mean servers and workstations that had, well, they didn't have SMB signing enforced. So if I tried getting Petit Potam working, I think they had some sort of, this is the first time I've seen unauthenticated Petit Potam fail completely. So I didn't even get a callback, which led me down the path of thinking maybe there's some network related protection involved, which might just be the case. So So even though the exploit successfully ran, I was authenticated. It said I would get a callback, didn't even get a callback. Usually when it's completely patched or remediated, you get a callback, but the callback is not authenticated. It's an anonymous callback. It's not a callback from the system account or the computer account. Anyway, so short story or end of the story, I guess, is that I didn't really get a foothold on the network using a true Active Directory. But then during the more noisier part of the test, towards the end of the engagement, I found that they had an instance of AD Manager Plus. Or no, sorry. Yeah, AD Manager, I think it's called. An AD Manager is basically a web interface, like a CMS or web interface for provisioning and controlling objects in Active Directory. So you can provision yourself users, computer accounts, you can give permissions, delegate rights, all that sort of stuff. It's basically a little bit better GUI on top of the actual Active Directory tool, or ADS editor, or whatever it's called. And I found that AD Manager had default admin credentials. So I could log into their AD management portal with admin. And at that time, I was debating whether or not I was actually in like a hack the box CTF, or if this was an actual client environment, or what was going on. Because that's basically like securing a perimeter, but then leaving the door fucking open. Like the front door is literally wide open. So I logged in, and I created myself an enterprise admin user and on the domain, right? Yeah, I also thought like, oh, this must be a honeypot. This must be like an old, outdated AD manager that they don't use anymore. It can't do anything. The service account it uses, right? The service account it uses has to be dead or something, right? Right. So I also thought like the size and the client in general tells me that there were no honeypots. But yeah, no, I was weirded out. So I created myself an enterprise admin user. I named it Trusted Tech, and I created a user. I gave it enterprise admin rights, and I was able to own the entire domain. And at that point, sure, somebody forgot to turn off the default admin user account. It's super easy to remediate. It's literally 2 clicks to remediate, but it's definitely a critical finding. And what remains for me is that if they can now detect this, if I get an email from them telling me, hey, somebody created an enterprise admin user, was that you? Hey, we detected somebody logging into AD Manager from an unknown host or whatever. If they were able to detect it, that would sort of give them more grace in terms of the criticality of the report and the finding, but they were totally unable to detect it. So I was able to log in with default credentials, create myself an enterprise admin account, and there were no detections in place. Even though they had a SIM. Like, I'm sure if I popped the shell on one of the machines, they would have caught it, but they didn't catch this. They didn't catch me creating a new enterprise admin. That should be like a giant red like the lights on top of a police car that the sysadmin people should have on their wall. So when people create a new privileged account, that red light should just start fucking spinning, and then like the nuclear sound, the I can't recall what it's called, the bombs are coming. Yeah, basically a CIM siren. There should be a siren that goes off when somebody creates a privileged account in your domain. But they didn't, so I ended up telling them on the recap call, that I just have to give this a critical, because this is not acceptable in 2001, dude. Right? It is hard. Like, it's generally hard, and I get it. But the environment wasn't really that big. like it wasn't that big, and they had the tools, they had the systems, they just haven't tuned them correctly. They just didn't have the rules necessary for it. But I think in any domain, no matter size, people creating themselves or enterprise admin and domain admin accounts being provisioned is something you should monitor, because that doesn't happen so much. You won't get a shit ton of false positives on that. People don't create themselves domain admin accounts every day. Domain admin accounts and enterprise accounts should only exist to manage the domain controllers. They should never be logged on to any other system, period. That's the remediation for it. You use separation of privileges and you use dedicated accounts for it. There's many ways to do it when you manage workstations. Some people like to use labs. So they just pull up a password from labs for that given workstation and they manage that workstation through that, or they have dedicated workstation management accounts or whatever. I mean, it's all about delegation of privilege. Nobody should be using actively the domain administrator accounts. It should only be used for domain controller specific tasks. That's how we go about them. I remember reading through our sysadmin, which I'm guessing is on Reddit one day, and one guy got contacted to set up a network for a client. He discovered that each computer was a domain controller. That isn't even an oopsie. That's just I have no idea what I'm doing something. And in the end, I don't think it's their fault. I mean, there's obviously technically it's their fault, but I think there's like a bigger responsibility on the whole company and the leaders, especially the leaders, to make sure that the people who work for them are well educated and know what to do and what not to do. I think that's where the responsibility lies most of the time. I don't think the responsibility should be on each individual guy knowing what to do. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of horror. I mean, this is a spooky season, so we can. If you have horror stories, write them in the chat. I have some horror stories as well. Yeah, that's one of the easiest DAs I've ever gotten so far this year. Admin giving somebody DA in 2021 is, you know. Yeah, no, that's true, right? So that's a whole debate, you know. Sure, the level I do testing might not reflect the level your budget is to defend against that testing, right? It's a hard struggle. I mean, it's not easy. All the credit goes to them. I think that apparently it made it easier for users to install VLC. There's a post on Reddit that's called a Dropbox account gave me stomach ulcers. Fuck. Another common thing that I see is of course, what's your favorite technique to pass from a medium technique to high intelligent to users that have the rights? I mean, there are so many UAC bypasses out there now. We have a couple of. We may or may not have a couple of UAC bypasses that we use. But there are definitely UAC bypasses. I mean, Microsoft have basically. I mean, this isn't new news or anything, but Microsoft have basically given up on UAC a long time ago. If you report an UAC bypass, they basically say this is not a problem. We won't fix it because UAC isn't supposed to be like a separation of privilege, like a defense or anything like that. It's not. Yeah, there we go. Thank you so much. UAC is not a security boundary. That's what they say. So they don't fix it, and therefore UAC bypasses, I mean, they're just valid. If you do them a bit differently than the public ones, you might get around some AVs. I mean, one of my favorite ones, if you have access to the computers, is just asking the user, picking the correct time and asking the user. If the user is local admin, there's a fair chance that he's going to be prompted for that UAC prompt a lot. Like, if he has local admin, it means that he most likely uses local admin, and therefore he's used to seeing that UAC prompt. So just by doing enough recon and being persistent long enough, you might just get away with just prompting the user, spawning a new high integrity user, popping UAC, and just the user clicking yes. I don't see like a yeah. So you can basically do whatever you want for group policies. Oddvar tells me this all the time when I'm on engagements and I sort of talk with him and we have a discussion. He's like, "Oh, I would push this GPO. I would do this. I would create that GPO." Basically, GPO is the, I guess I would say, like, most effective tool a sysadmin has. You can specify anything. Another common thing is, you know, shared local admin password. You can turn that off in the GPO. That's one GPO. You can restrict the local admin account to create interactive login sessions remotely. That's one GPO, and you stop that. Then pass the hash for local admin accounts is out the window, straight out the window, right? I'm not trying to say that it's super easy to secure a network. Obviously, I have no experience whatsoever securing a network. I only break stuff. So I'm not the guy who should talk. I'm just saying, you know, there's obviously they know this. Like there's GPOs for everything. There's a super powerful tool in their toolkit. The added bonus was users could not directly install malware or otherwise. Yeah, for sure. And that's how it usually is, right? So what I've seen from more enterprise, large-scale, well-matured infrastructure or networks is that they have, you know, either enrollment through Intune and or SCCM. That would be an and they have like an application store they can pick from. And if they want some specific application that isn't in the application store, you can ask the sysadmins, hey, I would like Notepad C++ because I'm a developer and I need it. Or I would like VLC because I watch a lot of videos. I watch a lot of conferences that I download. Like, I need VLC, right? And that's the correct way to do it. That's one of those application whitelisting things. And I mean, yeah, I get why, yeah. Imagine spending weeks securing a network with GPOs and then flung with ... comes out of nowhere like, hey, I'm curious to what the ... is. So did you try to send the link? Petit potam on pie. Yeah, petit potam, dude. Petit potam and ADCS, so powerful, man. It's gonna be relevant for years to come. Like the petit potam, authenticated petit potam isn't fixed, and there's still like 20 or so. I mean, okay, that's an exaggeration. Sorry. I think there's at least 5 and more RPC calls you can still use that are not patched to trigger petit potam. So I mean, I don't know how. It seems like Microsoft honestly doesn't know how to approach this. If they should take the no fix, disable NTLM authentication route, forcing everybody who has legacy systems to break their own networks, or if they're actually going to try to fix this by patching it. So a friend was recently on an engagement and was bitching about a certain EDR shooting down everything he has, trying AMSI patching, bypasses, reflection, forcing, etc. What else would you try in that scenario? So I have a lot of luck just trying fucking stupid shit against EDR solutions, like genuinely stupid stuff. A couple of weeks ago, I had beacons on a system with a specific EDR solution. Execute assembly through testing in my lab was off the table because they had their own AMSI implementation. So the default AMSI patch didn't work because, you know, it's an entirely different DLL. So one option was debug that DLL, find the new offset, find the new patch bytes, do that. I just opt for obfuscating everything. So I just obfuscated those binaries that I wanted to run with reflections. But no, I generally think like that sometimes EDRs can focus really much on the more advanced stuff that we do, but they might forget some of the really stupid stuff. Like the properly stupid stuff. Yeah. Some of that might be, you know, some EDR solutions might trigger on macro documents being downloaded and ran. But if you create the macro document locally and ran it to invoke shellcode, that might be a valid bypass, both in terms of the EDR and the application whitelisting. I've seen that. I was dropped in on a Citrix, like a remote desktop client or a shared server, and their application whitelisting policy was supposed to be super hard. And I just opened Word, created a new macro, smacked in the default MSF console, invoked shellcode macro code, and just ran it when I had the shell. Stupid stuff. Stupid stuff. Native implants sure native.net, that discussion, I guess. Native implants are great. I mean, we use native implants. I haven't used net implants in a very long time. That's just based on what the culture is here and what the research is about and what people create more than me. So basically, I don't have to spend time creating my own. I did before though. That's how the NetLoader project and all came to be. Like I created my own NetLoader wrappers before. Yeah, stupid stuff. Like, do they have PowerShell version 2? If they have PowerShell version 2, they can't log PowerShell and AMSI isn't implemented. So you can run like fucking a default Empire beacon would work in PowerShell version 2. That's stupid stuff. If they haven't disabled it, you can use it, right? I get that we're generally moving away, or we have been moving away from PowerShell for a very long time. I don't think I want to say that. Not because it's like dangerous or anything, but it was a known C. But it wasn't like it wasn't a top 5 EDR. No, definitely not a top 5. Like it's like it's known, but it's yeah. So int 128 says disconnect the attack chain. If you're using a malicious macro, don't spawn PowerShell from the office dock. Word PowerShell association will get you caught, but words on trigger link in startup folder and then wait might not get you caught. That's true. So detaching the attack chain, especially for initial access and initial access execution, is a must. As one, the last time I checked, doing that through VMI still detaches the chain. A lot of people implement an AMSI bypass in the macro, and then they do parent ID spoofing or process parent spoofing to detach that. There's multiple ways of doing it. Yeah, VMI still works if I recall correctly. There's definitely a lot of ways to do it. Cortex. Another thing I like to do is to not execute or another thing I like to do is to not actually execute the payload upon initial access at all. Just do it sort of passively, meaning you're dropping your persistency and whatever you need to get it running, but you're not actually executing anything. So the execution will be left up to either user interaction that you know will happen, or just like a reboot or something you know will happen in the end. So you're not actually initiating the payload yourself, and therefore the user does it, making it a more friendly chain for the EDR. So question, if you disable macros and disabling Defender via GPO, can you not enable it manually? So I'm not sure I get that. If you disable macros or disabling Defender via GPO, can you not enable it? So I think if you disable the Defender via GPO, you cannot enable it in the GUI, no. One thing I used to do was read a shit ton of APT reports and try to use their techniques to twist. That's great. That's sure. Looking for inspiration in existing techniques is how we innovate a lot of times, for sure. I don't personally do that a lot, but you know, yeah. I can trust the sex. Based on my limited experience, they can detect the custom run space quite easily, but I guess it depends on the product. Yeah, I mean, some EDR solutions are really starting to nail .NET executables, really stripping it apart. I'll tell Dave hello. Who should I say is hello? Who should I say is HE handles? I don't immediately recall your handle. Okay, nice. Thank you for the raid. So heads up, I'm super horrible. Or Garrett, I don't know. I'll let they know Garrett said hi. Sadly, just a heads up, I'm super horrible at names. I'm ass at remembering names. I don't even recall what I did yesterday. Or the better name, Tyler's intern. They hate handles, not sorry. Loof. I thought we agreed we shouldn't bring that up, we did. Don't be like that. I'm terrible at aliases though. I'm good with faces. Super solid with faces. If I see your face, I know you. Or I know I knew you. I know I knew you. I recall you based on faces, but names and aliases, I'm fucking horrible. I'm so sorry. Generally, like one of my biggest weaknesses. Recalling conversations and recalling stuff and recalling names. I guess I live in the moment, right? That's me. I live in the moment. That's such a cheesy thing to say. Dates as well, huh? Yeah, dates I'm also horrible at. People's birthdays. Fuck off, man. Thank God for Facebook. The only thing I still use Facebook for, getting alerts when my friends have birthday. What? So I can remember very specific things. I'm actually really good at remembering like what I have to do within a certain GUI. So like way back when I was young, I used to do a lot of After Effects and Photoshop and video editing and stuff like that. I still recall how to do all that stuff because it's picture based. So I like recall where I have to go, where I have to click, and I can sort of feel my way through it. But dates, as you say, and names, fucking horrible, man. Report due date. Yeah, no, report due date that was sent. No. Reports, man. There's nothing better. Don't tell Dave this. He will probably fire me, but or he probably won't fire me, but he probably won't like it. Friday night, I sat up until 4 a.m. in the morning. 4 a.m. on Saturday. So from Friday to Saturday to 4 a.m. in the morning, just getting our report out. And that's because for me to have peace of mind in the weekend, I have to get the fucking report out. I can't sleep. No, this is serious. I can't properly relax if I know I have a report that needs to go out on Monday. So I send it out on Friday for the whole peer review and QA and everything, that is. Not to the actual client. I'm not fucking Superman, but through like the whole like our whole review process before it goes out to the client, I have to sort of get that off my chest and get it out before the weekend, or I'm so afraid I'm gonna get backed up and piled up. So yeah. I guess that's just one of the benefits, really loving what you do, right? Yeah, no, work-life balance is basically non-existent. And I have a girlfriend, so I need to have some. But right now, we're both in a place where that's possible. Is it possible to have balance? No, I think so. Right now, I don't have any kids, right? I have a girlfriend. She studies. She's busy. She's really dedicated in her studies. We live together, obviously. But right now, I think this is my peak in terms of time and dedication and work being in the balance and not my life. But obviously, as soon as you get kids or as soon as your priorities change, that's going to change as well. So I think it's just one of the luxuries I have and maybe many other people have right now. Young, dedicated, motivated, loves what you're doing, and and you just want to spend time doing it. You don't want to burn out though. And we have like a big culture on that internally in Trusted's sake, watching out for people's backs and making sure people won't get burned out. Oh man, I can't like listen to any, when I do reporting, it's music, I'm doing reporting. It's so easy to like get off the chain and content switch. Yeah, I think reporting is always something I'm going to sort of try to achieve better and better. I think for me, I'm young. I don't have many years of experience. So for me, it's still hard sometimes to decide, the severity and the complexity of the findings and what I should tell the customer in terms of how they should remediate it, and is this a high, is it a low? I still find that easy. I still find that quite difficult. The actual attack path and technical details I can handle, but the experience you need to be really confident about the findings you're handing out is something you just have to gain over years, and it's something I'm going to be insecure about for a long time. That's just how it is. Yeah, the burnout is real. I'm kind of going through one. I'm just trying to get easy. Been pretty deep shit. Been pretty shit for the past month. I'm sorry to hear that, dude. It's just how it is. I mean, you just have to respect it. Sometimes it comes out of the blue. You can't do anything about it, and you just have to respect it. If you don't respect it, it will just get worse, and it won't go away. I think I've only been close to burnout once, and I got sick for a week straight up, and I just have to take a break from it. That's just how it is. Your body has our brains and bodies are designed to let you know when it's too much. You just have to listen to them. So I think generally though, I feel super spoiled being able to work with what I'm working with. There's very few people in the world who can genuinely say that they love doing what they do. Who sits on Sundays and basically works, right? I think our profession is one of those few professions, and we should be super privileged to be in it. You get overloaded, work, studies, projects, blogs. It's impossible to maintain everything. Some things need to go on the back burner for sure. Yeah, had that in school after 5 Active Directory classes in a row, dude. Fucking shoot me. But I think I'm gonna end the stream here. But if you want to keep chatting, join the Flangvik Discord. I'll send the link one more time. Usually, I guess one of the perks of joining is that you get to, if you want to have a voice chat with me afterwards, you can join. I'll be starting to doing that after the streams now, joining voice, and then if you guys want to sit and have a talk after the stream, we can do that. And I also pre-release some stuff in Discord, so this NetLoader update actually got sent in the Discord like 4 or 5 days ago. I'm only an hour late and I missed everything. I'm so sorry, man. I don't like to do too many streams. I'm afraid people get bored, and because some people like to watch these streams on YouTube afterwards, and I don't want to give them like a 3.5 hour stream. But if you want to keep talking, if you want to keep the discussion going, feel free to join the Discord. I'll be in voice. I think I saw one question go by which I missed. I think it was from YouTube. So somebody said, how do you keep up with the exploits and stuff? I actually had to say this to a client a couple of weeks ago, because they were like really on edge and they really wanted to catch the latest exploits and box. I was like, yeah, I use Twitter. I had to tell a client that I basically use Twitter to stay up to date with stuff, because it's true, man. There's no other main source of information I go through. It's Twitter. Sad to say, I guess. But yeah, it's Twitter. And I do some research on my own, of course, but a lot of it is Twitter. Okay, guys, be sure to join the voice channel in the Discord if you want to have a chat. Or just, if you just want to listen in and type, that's fine as well. But yeah. I'm gonna get off now. Twitter is awesome. So I really appreciate all of you guys joining. I love having these conversations and chats and answering questions with you. It's like the thing I look most forward to doing the stream. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great Sunday. Have a great work Monday. If you want to keep talking, join the Flangvik Discord. I'll be there waiting for you. Enjoy your Sunday, and yeah, later, boys and girls. Later, everyone.